This was actually one that I recorded last, and I'm like, I have a video talking about there's something wrong with the Fever and how they look defeated, everything, and I still stand by those videos, especially because some of them are reactions at the time, right after the game. So, I mean this when I say this. Fire Stephanie White yesterday. Like, fire her yesterday. And the reason why is not that Stephanie White is a bad basketball coach. It's not that Stephanie White is a bad motivational speaker. It's not that Stephanie White is doing a bad job defending her players. It's not any of that. It's that Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark fundamentally have different understandings.
Think the WNBA drama hit its peak last week? Think again. Linn Dunn just dropped a bomb on Stephanie White for using Caitlin Clark like a basic passer instead of the scoring machine she truly is. And trust me, this isn't subtle. Get ready for passive-aggressive shade, coaching chaos, and a dose of Indiana fury. Why does it feel like Caitlin Clark is playing with a leash on? Let's break down this wild basketball soap opera. You won't believe who said what.
So I had a film breakdown prepared today, but I'm actually going to go a different direction. This is a rant because we have to talk about the state of this Indiana Fever team, and I'm here to bring the reality to all you Fever fans. This team is not a championship team. They're not a championship team. They're nowhere near close to a championship team because every team that is a championship team can play defense. This Indiana Fever team has no defense, and that's like the farthest of their problems. Their offense looked really bad today, and Caitlin Clark obviously didn't shoot the basketball well, but I'm not going to blame this loss on Caitlin Clark, even though obviously they would have won if she would have shot the ball well.
Linn Dunn didn't just wake up and choose violence. She launched a full-court press of righteous anger and sideline shade. Why? Because watching Caitlin Clark jog around the three-point line like she's in a Fitbit ad while the Indiana Fever run an offense that feels like a failed group project? Yeah, that was her last straw. V3. When Linn Dunn goes off, it's not some polite tea-sipping debate, it's a thunderclap in a quiet room. Subtlety? Gone. Diplomacy? Left the building. What we got was a full-blown smackdown that set off group chats from ESPN to the Fever locker room. Why? Because one coaching decision, actually, a whole series of them, had Caitlin Clark looking less like a scoring legend and more like a background extra in her own biopic.
To go an entire game where they have not scored more than 20 points, where they have a quarter where they only score 9 points, and to call yourself a professional basketball team is pathetic. To call yourself a professional basketball coach of that team is pathetic. I watched that whole game, and other than Ari McDonald, Aaliyah Boston with a moment here and a moment there, nobody made any type of memorable impact on that game.
Stephanie White, bless her clipboard, apparently thought it was smart to turn Caitlin Clark into a glorified traffic cone while the offense wandered around like it was being called in Morse code. Spoiler, the vibes were not immaculate. Dunn wasn't having it. The moment Clark's ball handling turned into background noise in a playbook that might as well have been written in invisible ink, Dunn snapped into full executive mode.
I said, man, I want to speak on some recent comments that I saw coming across about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, right? And this just speaks to a point that I made earlier about like people, it just shows that like how fickle fans are, right? And so, you know, like the Fever yesterday just lost to, they lost to the Aces, right? And their record is 6 wins, 7 losses. Same thing for the Aces. Their record is 6 wins and 7 losses. But for the Fever, you know, you have people who are, you know, who want to already run the coach Stephanie White out of town.
When a GM like Linn Dunn speaks with that kind of fire, it's not just noise, it's a siren. Fix this mess or brace for impact. This wasn't just about misusing a star, it was a full-blown basketball identity crisis playing out in real time. Drafting a generational talent is one thing, treating her like a cheerleader with a decent jumper is another. Dunn saw what fans saw, Clark constantly passing, defenders barely guarding her, and a coaching staff that looked like they were building IKEA furniture without instructions. Stephanie White might say it's about balance or long-term development, but Dunn was done playing nice. There's no world where you let the most exciting rookie in years drift into an off-ball ghost while the team bricks mid-range shots like it's 1997. At this rate, Caitlin Clark needs a missing poster, last seen breaking NCAA records, now lost in Indiana's rotational Bermuda Triangle. And remember, Dunn's no quiet exec, she's a basketball lifer with decades of experience, and she basically hit the panic button with her shoe.
The reason you lost was not because Caitlin Clark didn't score the basketball. The reason you lost is because you stopped doing what was working. What worked for the Indiana Fever, especially in that first half, was a pick and roll with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. All you have to do is have a pick and roll at the top of the key. Off that pick and roll, 2 defenders are going to go with Caitlin Clark, leaving Aaliyah Boston to have a wide open lane. That is just the play you should go to every single possession. But how come we never go to it in back-to-back possessions? We'll go to it one possession, the next possession we don't go to it. Why not? Stephanie White, why not? It always works. 2 defenders are always going to go with Caitlin Clark. There should never be a play where Caitlin Clark brings the ball off the court and then she passes it and she runs off the playoff.
What was the game plan? That's the problem, there wasn't one. The Fever looked like they were running improv theater with a basketball. 1 minute, Clark's sprinting like something big's about to happen. The next, she's parked in the corner while a teammate bricks another ISO possession like it's part of the playbook. And you could see it on Clark's face, that polite Midwestern fury, where the smile gets tighter, the nod slower, and you just know she's quietly planning a basketball uprising. Meanwhile, fans turned into full-blown detectives, frame-by-frame breakdowns, arrows, conspiracy-level diagrams, trying to figure out if Stephanie White was conducting an experiment on how badly you can misuse the best shooter in women's basketball before the GM explodes. And the irony? Clark didn't even need the ball to highlight the dysfunction. Her off-ball movement practically screamed, "Help," while defenders stuck to her like glitter at a preschool. Meanwhile, the Fever offense looked like they'd lost both their GPS and their will to compete.
What was the game plan against her to slow her down?
Well, like I said pregame, it was just to try to make everything as difficult as possible. Like, Asia's one of the best players in the world. You're not going to stop her. So we just needed to make it difficult. And I thought AB did. But Asia did what great players do. And they step up in the fourth quarter. And that's what she did.
Caitlin's one of them being real the past few games. Just whether you said to her or whether she kind of said about keeping that confidence in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is what we have to do as a staff to get her better looks, like higher quality looks. Every game plan is going to be to make her score inside the 3-point line.
Linn Dunn didn't just notice, she boiled. Watching your franchise star treated like a background prop in a low-budget production is enough to make any seasoned exec question reality. She saw the open shots vanish, the spacing collapse like a bad souffle, and the offense slog through molasses while Caitlin Clark stood wide-eyed, untouched, and ignored. Naturally, social media exploded. Fans turned into armchair coaches overnight. Timelines filled with play diagrams and sacred NCAA footage as people screamed into the void, "Let her cook." Fever fans were out here praying, not just for an offensive coordinator, but for a whiteboard that wasn't being used as a coaster during timeouts. By the time Dunn stepped in, the vibes were so off it felt like the team needed a basketball exorcism. And if that meant airing things out publicly, so be it. The clock is ticking, and you don't draft a generational star just to have her parked like a bench decoration while the offense plays hot potato with zero heat. It was a basketball mystery strange enough to land a late-night HBO doc. Who muzzled Caitlin Clark? Spoiler, it wasn't a lockdown defender or some defensive mastermind. The real culprit was sitting courtside, clipboard in hand, drawing plays from the "How to Undermine Your Franchise Star" playbook.
So yes, the definition of Murphy's Law is anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Now, I'm being kind of dramatic here, but the Indiana Fever are down coach Stephanie White for an indeterminate amount of time. She is out for personal reasons. Stephanie White and her partner, Lisa Salters, who is also a sideline reporter for some NBA games. She is a sideline reporter for the NFL. They were both out at the same time, most recently, like a couple weeks ago. This is completely a personal reason, but there's obviously something that they're dealing with at home. But the adversity that the Indiana Fever have faced this season, I don't know that I've ever seen a team just go down so many key players and key factors to the roster. I mean, I don't know if a coach would be like a key roster member, but